World News in 5.
Right now.
News and developments making headlines around the world in 5 minutes. World News in 5. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Good day to all of our listeners here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. This is World News in 5 and I'm your host, Steph Vicente. Russia is giving a warm reception to United States President Donald Trump's new national security strategy, saying the document is largely consistent with how Moscow sees the world. According to the BBC, the 33-page report paints a dramatic picture of Europe, warning of what it calls civilizational erasure. Notably, it doesn't label Russia as a major threat to the United States. The strategy highlights several priorities: countering foreign influence, stopping mass migration, and pushing back against what it describes as censorship coming from the European Union. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov spoke to Russia's state news agency, saying the changes in the U.S. strategy align with Moscow's own vision. EU leaders, meanwhile, feared the softer tone toward Russia could weaken international pressure on Moscow, especially as the war in Ukraine continues. In other news stories, voters in Hong Kong have headed to the polls in an election widely viewed as a test of public mood, especially after a deadly apartment fire last month that left nearly 160 people dead and stirred anger across the city. The BBC reports the government launched an extensive campaign urging residents to elect new members of the Legislative Council, or LegCo. All candidates running in this year's polls have been screened to ensure loyalty to Beijing. Official numbers show voter turnout at 31.9%, slightly higher than the record low of 30% seen in 2021 when public apathy was at its peak. Around 1.3 million people cast their ballots out of 4.1 million registered voters in a city of more than 7 million. This election comes after Beijing's major overhaul of Hong Kong's electoral system. The changes introduced following the 2019 protests ensure that only what China calls patriots can run for office. Beijing argues the reforms keep Hong Kong stable, but critics warn they have sharply weakened the city's democratic freedoms. And finally, a senior Hamas official says the group is open to discussing ways to freeze or securely store its weapons, an issue that's central to the fragile ceasefire deal with Israel. In an interview with the Associated Press in Qatar, Bassem Naim said Hamas is very open-minded about what to do with its remaining arms. Under the U.S. brokered agreement, Hamas must surrender its weapons to independent monitors as part of Gaza's demilitarization. That step is required in the second phase of the 20-point ceasefire plan. Naim said the group is willing to consider options such as freezing, storing, or laying down its weapons with guarantees that they won't be used during the truce. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said on Sunday that Israel is very close to moving into that second phase. But some important questions remain unresolved, particularly which countries will contribute to the international security force that is supposed to help manage Gaza. Netanyahu stressed that Israel's priority in the next phase is simple: disarm Hamas and demilitarize Gaza. And that concludes today's edition of World News in 5. For Radyo Pilipinas World Service, this has been Steph Vicente. Good day and stay safe, everyone.
World News in 5.
Right now.
News and developments making headlines around the world in 5 minutes. World News in 5. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.